The Pharos of Alexandria, that is a lighthouse which stood at Alexandria in north of Egypt 2,300 years ago. Now, Alexander the Great had conquered Egypt in 432 before Christ. He became the pharaoh of Egypt, and he founded the city Alexandria, and it became a chief port. And now there is a little island a bit into the Mediterranean Sea of a harbor of Alexandria, and on that Pharos of Alexander, that Pharos of Alexandria was built under the order of King Ptolemy II of Egypt to the Greek architect Sostratus. And it is said that it was 130 meters high. At the top there was a big brazier with a fire burning day and night, and it was said that ships 40 kilometers away could still see the fire. Very much at the top they said that there was a mirror, and it is said that people could see in that mirror what was happening on the other side of the Mediterranean Ocean in Turkey, in Istanbul, in Constantinople, in Asia Minor. Now, and how did it look? There's one version, and that version says it are 4 towers on top of each other, each one smaller. Another version says it is a squared base, and then octagonal in the middle, so 8 sides, and then a circular at the top. Now, it stood there for 900 years, then the city changed its ruling person and people, and now there was then the Caliph Al-Walid, and there was a spy sent by, according to a story, a spy sent by the Emperor of Constantinople to the Caliph Al-Walid, and telling him that there was a fabulous treasure buried underneath the Pharos of Alexandria. Now, according to the story, they started to dig for it, and only when all was already basically destroyed and reconstruction impossible, and also that mirror had fallen down and shattered, they noticed that it was a trick. That is the story. And it was still there was when an earthquake in 1375 fallen down into the harbor made. And there were the white marble stones still lying, out of which the Pharos of Alexandria, that lighthouse, was built. Now, technically only the island had the name Pharos, but when the whole lighthouse was named so, and in many languages around the world, lighthouses are called for that, because of that, Pharos. That is according to Wonders of the World by Lionel Brixton on the page 70. If you click this video away, then please tell me what the reason for it was, so that I can improve. Otherwise, hi and welcome. I am trying to learn history, today the Pharos of Alexandria, and after we've done it, we're gonna do Extensor now, Wristtraining. And if you participate in the Wristtraining, then is that at your own risk. The Pharos of Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great after he conquered Egypt in 332 before Christ, Alexandria became Egypt's chief port and one of the great centers of culture during the Hellenistic age. Okay, I try to memorize these things now. This is the second time reading it. For a good part of its history, Alexandria had an appropriate beacon in the remarkable lighthouse which stood by the harbor on the Isle of Pharos. Alexandria was founded by Alexander the Great, who had conquered Egypt in 332 before Christ, and over time it grew to a big harbor. Great centers of culture, chief port, a great center of culture during the Hellenistic age, whatever that means. I know what it means, but whatever it is. And there was the island Pharos, a little bit outside of the harbor of Alexandria. Built in white marble in about 270 before Christ during the reign of King Ptolemy II of Egypt, the lighthouse was designed by the Greek architect Sostratus. The Egyptian king Ptolemy II ordered in the year 270 before Christ the architect, who was Greek, Sostratus, to architecture build that lighthouse onto that island Pharos. According to some accounts, it stood 130 meters high, with a square bottom section, an octagonal middle section, and a circular top section. Other historians say that it was built in 8 or 4 towers one above the other, and each smaller than the one below. So the first version is the easy one, tower on tower on tower, or every time smaller. The other version is a squared bottom, octagonal middle, and a circular top section. In the topmost section or tower stood a vast brazier which was kept burning day and night to provide a beacon. I don't know what a brazier is, but it already sounds like a word like fire. So a brazier. A brazier is a thing which was there making the light. Or was it the mirror? A brazier. Maybe the brazier is the bowl in which the oil is burning. There was a fire all night and day. A vast brazier was there, and that thing was used to make the fire. Burning day and night to provide a beacon. I don't know what a beacon is, but I get it a bit from the context. The beacon was visible to ships more than 40 kilometers out in the Mediterranean Sea. Visible 40 kilometers. 270 Ortis Stratus came from the second, 332 Alexander the Great. What is missing? 130 meters. Square, octagonal, circle, or front. 40 kilometers visible. On the summit of the lighthouse was a huge mirror. In the mirror, according to legend, it was possible to see everything that was happening in Constantinople, right across the eastern Mediterranean and Asia Minor. It was also said that the mirror could be used like a burning glass to focus the sun's rays on hostile ships far out at sea and burn them. Allowing for such exaggerations, the lighthouse at Alexandria must have deserved to be ranked among the wonders of the ancient world. Okay, and there's a legend, and there's also said that there was a mirror at the top of the lighthouse of the Pharos of Alexandria, and in that is said could someone see what happens in Istanbul or in Constantinople on the other side of the Mediterranean Sea. Or it could be also bundled with the light and then used to heat another ship until it's self-ignites. Though it was not the first lighthouse in the Mediterranean, it was certainly the largest. The island on which it stood soon gave its name to the lighthouse itself, and so the word Pharos came to be used in many languages for any lighthouse. In many languages, use the word Pharos for all lighthouses. It's actually just the island. The Pharos continued to light ships to Alexandria for nearly 900 years until the Arabs captured the city and half this. It was 270 built, that would be 600. So it was there for 900 years, and when the city changed the person who was ruling it, it is said that the Caliph at Al-Walid was tricked into doing this, with dismantling of lighthouse. Was he tricked into it because a spy told him, a spy of the Emperor of Constantinople, who wanted to prevent the Pharos being used to benefit the other people now in the obstination of Alexandria, led his spy saying that there was a fabulous treasure buried underneath the Pharos. Only when the lighthouse was beyond reconstruction. Why was it beyond reconstruction? Only when the lighthouse was beyond reconstruction did the Caliph realize the trick. By then, too, the great mirror had fallen and shattered to smithereens. But also the mirror had fallen down, and the lighthouse was reconstructed, or deconstructed, dismantled, deconstructed. It was Al-Walid, and the Emperor of Constantinople. Okay. What was left of Pharos survived until 1375, when an earthquake shook Alexandria and hurled the remains of the ancient lighthouse into the harbor, as some of its once white marble stones lie still. And what was still standing is, by an earthquake, broken down into the harbor. There, according to the book, are still some white marble stones lying. Must be a lot of them. 130 meters. Who has brought that wall? How was it brought onto that island? Where did it come from? someone could look at the Pharos of Alexandria, the White House, the White Marble House of Alexandria. I'm going to start a second camera and try to visualize. It was 332. So Stratos. Total mistake, 40 kilometers. The Pharos of Alexandria. That is a lighthouse which stood at Alexandria in north of Egypt 2,300 years ago. Now, Alexander the Great had conquered Egypt in 432 before Christ. He became the Pharaoh of Egypt and he founded the city Alexandria. And it became a chief port. And now there is a little island a bit into the Mediterranean Sea of a harbor of Alexandria, and on that Pharos of Alexander that Pharos of Alexandria was built under the order of King Ptolemy II of Egypt to the Greek architect Stratos. And it is said that it was 130 meters high. At the top there was a big brazier with a fire burning day and night, and it was said that ships 40 kilometers away could still see the fire. Very much at the top, they said that there was a mirror, and it is said that people could see in that mirror what was happening on the other side of the Mediterranean Ocean in Turkey, in Istanbul, in Constantinople, in Asia Minor. Now, and how did it look? There's one version, and that version says it are 4 towers on top of each other, each one smaller. Another version says it is a squared base, and then octagonal in the middle, so 8 sides, and then circular at the top. Now, it stood there for 900 years, then the city changed its ruling person and people, and now there was then the Caliph Al-Walid, and there was a spy sent by, according to a story, a spy sent by the Emperor of Constantinople to the Caliph Al-Walid, and telling him that there was a fabulous treasure buried underneath the Pharos of Alexandria. Now, according to story, they started to dig for it, and only when all was already basically destroyed and reconstruction impossible, and also that mirror had fallen down and shattered, they noticed that it was a trick. That is the story. And that was still there was when an earthquake in 1375 fallen down into the harbor made. And there the white marble stones are still lying, on which the Pharos of Alexandria, that lighthouse, was built. Now, technically only the island had the name Pharos, but when the whole lighthouse was named so, and in many languages around the world, lighthouses are called for that, because of that, Pharos. That is according to Wonders of the World by Lionel Gregson on the page 70. The page number is missing. I'm going to stop the camera. I said Al-Walid, was that right? Al-Walid. That was history part. If you were here for history, you can go directly to the next part of history. If you stay here and participate in the wrist training, then it's already on. Let's go. We are having the whole time a good and stable stance, hands next to the body, hold the fists and bring them down the spotlight. And now to the inside. We're having 3 rules. The first rule is that we're stopping immediately as soon as there's pain. Now the flat hands, the magician. The second rule is that we're going only as far as we can go with a little bit of effort. Another pancake flipper, the hands and open. It goes. And the third rule is that we're not overdoing it. We just want to strengthen, not to exhaust. We have quite a lot of exercises, so you can take a break whenever you want or need. The next exercise, we're having the hands out, the T-Rex in the morning, and bring them down. And up. And up. And now the quadrangular castle architect fists to the inside. Up. Out. Down. In. Down. Out. In. Now the crab anxious to the fever. Fist. Down. Press from the inside. Outside. Again, if there's pain, then stop immediately. And don't go until exhaustion. Press from the bottom. Other side. Fist. Down into flexion. press from the side. And now the T-Rex in the gym, you can use the tennis ball, or you just do it without one. Press and release, and press and release, and press, switch and press, or just make it stronger. Release and stretch, press, and again. And now the cautious big bang. Fingertips of one hand on top of fingernails of your own, and up slowly. And close again slowly. Switch and up slowly, and close. And now the field daisies in your synthesis direct your fists and open, close, and spread the fingers. Close and spread, close. Next exercise, the basket bridge. Flat hands and bend the middle knuckles. Up again, then now around, bend the knuckles. Now. And the field daisies, no, the frog testing water temperature. Down with flat fingers and up with strong fists. Again, if you need a break, do a break. Down. And one more time. And now the claw. Flat hands and then make claws. Quite strong claws and try to bring them out. So outside, flare them. Up and flare. Up and flare. One more time. And now fists in, into flexion, down, extension, flat fingers. In, strong fist flexion, out, extension, flat fingers. In, strong fist flexion, out, extension, flat fingers. One more round. And the ice axe, flat hand, bend it into knuckles and press on all 4 fingers. And other hand, bend it and press on all 4 fingers. And last exercise, the rocket boosters launchers, I can't give the name. The launcher booster of a rocket driver, strong fist, long arms, and bring them into flexion. And extension, flat fingers. And strong fist flexion. And out. In. Out. In. And the ending. And now the floor. Go with moderate force over the middle part of the lower arm. And on the other side. And that was the wrist training. I thank you very much, and until next time.